The house of cards rose in the blink of an eye. I snuck a glance at Satoru sitting next to me. Looked like it was going well. He was already on the 4th layer. Satoru sensed that I was looking and spun the 4 of Hearts card. He was levitating with a smug expression on his face. Determined not to lose, I focused on the house of cards before me. It was a simple task, stacking playing cards into pyramids, but actually doing it involves a lot of discipline in using your cantus. First and foremost was concentration. The slightest touch or breath of wind would knock the house down. Next was spatial perception. Third was multitasking. You had to be able to pay attention to all that while looking out for signs that the house was about to fall and correct it in time. Incidentally, there's a story saying that when Shisei Kaburagi tried this assignment, he was able to complete it instantly by imagining a pyramid made of 84 cards. But no one else has ever been witnessed doing such a thing, so it's probably just an exaggerated tale. In Harmony School, we were instructed to build card houses on many occasions. I never thought that it would have been in preparation for Sage Academy. "Saki, hurry it up," Satoru said unnecessarily. "It's just a game, isn't it? But don't worry, I won't lose to you." "Stupid, competing amongst ourselves isn't going to do anything. Look at Team 5, they work really well together." I looked over and saw that all the members of Team 5 were moving at the same pace, moving steadily toward the tip of the pyramid. And like always, our ace is in top form. As Satoru said, Shun was undeniably the best in our class. He had already built it up 7 levels and was working on the 8th. No one else in the class could control cards the way he did. Like the gentle flapping of butterfly wings, it was fascinating to watch. "But there's also someone holding us back," Satoru sighed, looking over the group. Next to Satoru, Maria was working at almost the same speed as Shun, but her technique was sloppy and she had knocked over some of her cards twice already. But since she managed to fix it quickly each time, her pace was the same as ours on the whole. Next to Maria, Mamoru was almost the exact opposite. He worked almost unbearably carefully, but there's salt that his house was extremely stable. However, his slow pace meant that he was just barely above average in the class. The problem was Reiko, sitting the farthest end. She hadn't even completed 1 layer yet. It was depressing watching her work. Her cards were shaking the same way a child's hand would shake if they were bad at building card pyramids. Reiko was from Goldtown, so I'd never seen her in school before, but I have no doubts that she was also bad at making card houses back in Morality School. Even so, her clumsiness was astounding. When it looked like she finally got the cards to stand up, it would collapse and she would have to start all over again. "It's so bad it's almost funny." Satoru shook his head and turned back to his own cards. "As long as she's here, we'll never win." "So what? Reiko's a good person. She just hasn't had a breakthrough yet." Even as I said that, I knew it was a lie. Reiko Amano couldn't use her cantus well. No matter what task we were given, her results were always different from the dictated goals. Earlier, we were playing a game similar to telephone in order to hone our image replication skills. Each team sits in a line, and the first person is given an oil painting to look at. They then reproduce the picture as a sand drawing using their cantus and show it to the next person in line. That person only has a few seconds to look at the drawing before they have to reproduce it as accurately as possible. The team whose final drawing is the most faithful to the original wins. For us, Team 1, I thought our image construction and transmission techniques were exceptional. Shun especially stood out from the rest of us. His pictures were so good they looked like photographs. The next best was Maria. Unfortunately, I was not as skilled as she is in producing accurate and artistic images. If Satoru were first, he might not be able to do it, but he was great at copying sand drawings. I was the exact opposite. I was able to create sand drawings based on the originals. Mamoru was quite artistic and could produce beautiful pictures, but they weren't always accurate. Out of the 6 of us, Reiko was always the one messing up. If I were to be perfectly honest, her sand drawings looked like marks in the sand left by the torturous struggles of a dying crab. No matter how closely I looked at her pictures, I had no idea what she was drawing. No matter what position she was placed in line, her drawings never look anything other than random scratches. In the House of Cards competition too, her slowness was a deciding factor in our loss. The team with the highest number of cumulative layers wins. But before that, each member must build at least 7 stories. And this time, Reiko made a fatal mistake. While everyone else was carefully and delicately maneuvering their cards, she somehow managed to make hers rocket through the air and smack into Maria's. Unsteady as it was, Maria's card house was the second tallest of the group. It was flattened in an instant. "Ah, I'm sorry." Needless to say, Reiko was panicked. Maria sat stunned for a few moments before she began rebuilding her pyramid twice as quickly as she had been doing, but given how little time we had left, even if both Shun and Maria's pyramids were complete, it wouldn't have been enough. Before she could even complete the 3rd layer, a whistle blew, signaling the end of the competition. "I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did something like that." Reiko apologized incessantly. "Don't worry about it. I knocked it over a bunch of times myself anyway," Maria said, smiling, but her eyes were empty. "Here, I'll give a brief introduction of Team 1. The 6 members are Shun Aonuma, Maria Akizuki, Satoru Asahina, Reiko Amano, Mamoru Ito, and me, Saki Watanabe. You might have noticed that the names are in alphabetical order, so it would have made sense for them to be in Team 5. But I somehow wound up in Team 1. Since 3 of my good friends are in the same team, I thought it was done as a special consideration to help me get used to Sage Academy." After class that day, Maria, Satoru, Shun, Mamoru, and I walked down a small path that ran along the canal near school. It wasn't that we didn't want to be friends with Reiko, since we did hang out with her pretty often, but that we felt it might be awkward for her to be around us after messing up so badly. "I want to be able to use my full power already," Satoru said, stretching. Everyone felt the same way. Since we were still students, we couldn't use our cantus in public. Unlike the classes in Harmony schools, the lectures at Sage Academy were long and tedious, but we had to go through them before our cantus would be unsealed for the practical course at the end of the day. "When you get to use your full powers, I have to be sure to run away as far as I can," I teased. "Why?" said Satoru sullenly. "No particular reason. I already have perfect control, but you're clumsy as a drunk." "I think you're both really good," said Shun, trying to placate both of us. "Hearing this from you, I can't really be happy." Satoru kicked a pebble into the canal. "Why?" Shun asked, genuinely confused. "I'm not lying. I really think that both of you are good. Your cards didn't go flying the wrong way or anything." "Ah, stop it already," Maria sighed, covering here ours. Shun's unconsciously looking down on us. "Don't you think so, Saki?" To tell the truth, I agreed with Satoru, but I didn't say that. "Don't lump me in with you. You're the only one being looked down on." "What? No, I'm not," Satoru grumbled, then suddenly fell silent. "What's wrong?" Maria asked. Satoru pointed to an area of the canal 6 or 7 meters ahead of us. "Look at that." There were 2 humanoid shapes shrouded in dirt-colored robes. "Queerats?" Maria whispered, twisting a lock of red hair between her fingers. "Yeah, what are they doing?" Shun was fascinated, as was I. This was the first time I had ever been this closet to a queerat. "We shouldn't stare," Mamoru warned. His curly hair always made it look like his head was exploding. In friendship, if we saw queerats, we were told not to stare or get close. Didn't they ever tell you in Harmony school? Of course we had been. But it's human nature to want to do things you've been told are forbidden. We advanced slowly, keeping an eye on their movements. I remembered what my father had told me when I was younger. As we got closer, we saw that the queerats were in the process of cleaning the trash that collected in the bends in the canal where the water flowed slower. They were diligently scooping up leaves and twigs with nets on bamboo poles. Something like this could be done in an instant with cantus, but no doubt humans find it too boring to be worth their time. "They're working pretty hard. But it looks hard to hold a net with hands like that," Maria said sympathetically. "It sure seems like it. Their skeletons are structured differently from ours. Just standing on 2 legs is hard enough." It was just as Shun said. Even though we couldn't see their bodies covered by the robes, the arms holding the nets looked rodent-like, and they balanced unsteadily on their hind legs. "We shouldn't be watching them." Mamoru took a few steps away from us and turned his back to the queerats. "Come on, nothing's gonna happen. Hey, watch out!" Satoru ran forward, shouting. One of the queerats had tried to lift up a net laden with leaves that was heavier than it had anticipated. With a huge wobble, it pitched forward. The other Queerat tried to catch it, but was a second too late. The first Queerat fell headfirst into the canal. There was a huge splash. We rushed forward. The fallen Queerat was struggling under the water about a meter away. It couldn't swim very well. In addition, leaves and twigs were tangled all around it, preventing it from moving. Its companion dashed back and forth in a panic. It didn't seem to realize that it could hold out the net for the Queerat to grab. I took a deep breath and concentrated. "Saki, what are you trying to do?" Maria asked, surprised. "Helping it." "Huh, how?" "It's better not to have anything to do with them," Mamoru shouted in a cowardly voice from behind. "It's fine. I just have to lift this part to get him back to shore. It'll be easy." "You can't be serious. You can't just use your Cantus whenever you want. I think you should stop too. If I don't do anything, it'll die." I calmed down and quietly whispered my mantra. "But this is really bad. We were taught to be compassionate to all living things, right?" I focused on the Queerat bobbing in the water. The problem was that it kept moving, and all the leaves and debris made it hard to get a grasp on its size. "It's easier to lift it up along with the leaves," Shun said, realizing my dilemma. I cast him a grateful glance and tuned out the others. I concentrated on lifting the mass of leaves, imagining it rising up. Finally, it broke the surface tension and hovered above the water. Water trapped in the pile cascaded into the canal. Bits of leaves that had escaped my notice fluttered down. The Queerat should be somewhere in there, though I couldn't see it. I slowly guided it toward the shore. Everyone stepped back to make room. I gently dropped it on the path. The Queerat was alive. Thrashing and kicking, it managed to turn over and cough up a flood of water and bubbles. Up close, it was pretty big. It was probably a meter tall, fully upright. "Wow, it looked like you just scooped it up with a big net. That's a perfect levitation." "Yeah, thanks to your advice." As I was basking in Shun's praise, Satoru cut in. "What do we do now?" "If the school finds out." "As long as they don't find out, it's fine." "I'm saying, what if they find out?" Maria came to my rescue. "Everyone absolutely has to keep this a secret, okay? For Saki's sake." "Okay," said Shun without hesitation. "You too, Satoru, got it?" "You don't have to tell me, but what if it gets out somehow?" "It doesn't seem like anyone saw us. As long as no one says anything, it'll be fine," Maria replied. "Mamoru?" "What? What do you mean, what?" "Nothing happened today. I didn't see anything. I had nothing to do with the Queerats or anything. But what do we do about this?" Satoru wrinkled his nose at the Queerat. "It's not going to talk to anyone. Can Queerats talk?" Shun looked curious. I approached the Queerat, who was still lying on the ground. I wondered if it was injured somewhere. When the other Queerats saw me, it also fell prostrate to the floor. They were obviously afraid of humans. "Hey, I saved your life? Got it?" I tried to speak gently. "You shouldn't talk to Queerats," Mamoru shouted in a strangled voice from somewhere behind me. "Hey, can you hear me?" The soaked Queerat nodded silently. Looking a lot more comfortable now that it was back on all fours, it crawled over to me and made a movement like it was kissing my shoes. They both bowed. Somehow, that simple action was full of meaning. Suddenly, I really wanted to know what their faces looked like. "Hey, look this way." I clapped my hands lightly. "Saki, stop it already." Maria sounded slightly stunned. "Seriously, you can't. The Queerats." Mamoru sounded even farther away now. "Do you understand what I'm saying? Lift your head up." The Queerats lifted their heads nervously. Somehow, I had been expecting a cute face like a field mouse's, so I was shocked. Under the hood was a face uglier than any I had ever seen on a living thing. It had a flat snout, more like a pig's than a rat's, loose pale skin that hung in folds and was covered in brown, downy hairs and shiny, beady eyes. "The Kyutaku, kiki, kakakakaga." Gods. The Queerat suddenly started speaking in a high, squeaky voice. I froze in surprise. "It's talking," Maria murmured. The other three were dumbfounded. "What's your name?" I asked. "Akshka," it chirped in a sing-song voice. Spit frothed at the corners of its mouth. I knew it was saying its name, but there's no way to write it out in Japanese, not that I even remember what it was. "Well, it looks like we won't have to worry about them ratting us out," Satoru said, sounding relieved. "It's not like anyone will understand what they say." Our anxiety gone, we started laughing. But for some reason, a chill ran up my spine as I looked at the Queerats. It felt like I had touched on something taboo that was hidden deep in my heart. "Although we can't use their names. There should be some other way to tell them apart, Shun mused. You can tell by their tattoos. Surprisingly, it was Mamoru who had spoken. Tattoo? Where? Somewhere on their forehead. It should have their colony and identification number, Mamoru said, his back still turned. I put my hand tentatively on the queerat's head and lifted its hood. It stayed docile like a trained dog. There it is. Down the length of its forehead, the words Goat 6 and 19 were tattooed in blue ink. What do these words mean? It has to be the colony's emblem, Shun said. Queerats have 3 characteristics that are unlike most other animals. The first is their appearance that is the basis for their name. Queerats resemble hairless rats and are around 60 centimeters to a meter in length. Standing upright, they're between 1.2 and 1.4 meters. In some cases, they can be as tall as an average human. Second, even though they are very clearly mammals, they are eusocial, like ants or bees, and live in colonies with a queen. This is a trait that comes from their ancestor, the East African naked mole rat. Small colonies have only around 200 or 300 workers, but large ones can have thousands, even up to 10,000 workers. Third, queerats are far more intelligent than dolphins or chimpanzees. Some would even say they are as intelligent as humans. Those who pledge allegiance to humans and become civilized colonies are given protection in return for their tribute and labors. The colonies are named after various insects. For example, the colony with the greatest strength and most often recruited for public works operations is the giant hornet colony. Other colonies dotted around Kamisu 66 are the wood ant, deerfly, dragonfly, spider wasp, robber fly, giant stag beetle, cave cricket, paper wasp, ground beetle, tiger beetle, goat moth, diving beetle, cricket, blue centipede, praying mantis, pyraloid moth, garden tiger moth, tachina fly, millipede, orb spider, cone-headed katydid, and more. The goat probably stands for the goat moth colony, Shun said. They're probably all tattooed since there are so many of them you can't recognize them just by sight. Then this guy is a worker of the goat moth colony. Goat moth was a small colony with only 200 workers. Goa moth, goat moth, chichi koni. Grrr, it said, shivering. It looks cold. It's completely soaked, and since queerats live in burrows, I imagine their body temperatures are naturally lower, Shun said. We let the queerats go. The 2 of them bowed low as we left. No matter how many times I looked back as we walked away, they remained bowed. As I thought, there's only the dung beetle method, right? Maria said. This was about a month after the queerate incident. That's way too obvious, Satoru objected. Every team is going to have thought of that. Plus, it's impossible to control the ball like that. We were having a discussion around a lump of clay sitting on the desk. What if we made a big ring and put the ball inside? That way, the ball will move with the ring wherever we want it to go, I said, swinging my legs from my perch on the desk. The idea had come to me out of the blue, and I thought it wasn't half bad. But it might lose power halfway through, and what if the ball rolls over their ring? Satoru objected again. I was about to snap at them when Shun pointed out something rather more important. It'll be hard to make sure the ring stays on the ground the whole time. If even one part of it floats up, we'll get a penalty. Right, I admitted. We're not getting anywhere just thinking about it. Why don't we just try it out? That way we'll get a feeling of how much clay we'll need to use to make the pusher. As Maria suggested, we allocated about half the clay to making the pusher and the other half to making attackers. Is this it? Satoru sounded disappointed. I wonder how much the ball weighs, Maria mused. Shun folded his arms and thought, it's made of marble, so I'm guessing over 10 kilos. That's about how much clay we have total. So in other words, the pusher is about half that weight at most, Satoru sighed. But as the clay dries out while it's baked, it'll also get lighter, right? Oh yeah. So then at the very end, the pusher will only be about the third of the ball's weight. Everyone else still looked confused, but I couldn't help smiling when Shun agreed with me. So we'll have to push it from behind after all, Mamoru said. Now we're back to the same idea. The ball tournament was 5 days from now. That means that in those 5 days, we had come up with a basic strategy. Make a working pusher, attackers, and defenders out of clay, and learn to control them perfectly. Here I'll explain the rules of the tournament. There are 2 teams, the offense and the defense. The offense rolls a large marble balacra across the field into the goal, while the defense tries to block. The total time allowed for one round is 10 minutes, and the team that takes the least time to score a goal is the winner. In the case where neither side scores, both teams play defense as well as offense in a tiebreaker match, where the first team to score wins. Throughout the match, you can only use your cantus, but there is one serious restriction. You are not allowed to alter the ball or the field with your cantus. That means we have to be good at controlling our pieces, the pusher and attackers when we were the offense, and the defenders when we were on defense. In addition, our pieces are not allowed to lose contact with the ground. If we were allowed to use floating pieces, we would be able to push the ball without being hindered by obstacles in the field. The field constructed in the inner courtyard of the school is 2 meters wide and 10 meters long, and paved with sandy dirt and patches of grass, so that it required considerable concentration just to push the ball in a straight line. The defense could put the goal wherever they wanted, but could not do anything else, like making potholes or mountains to protect it. The pieces only have to be within the weight limits. We are free to decide what shape or how many pieces we wanted to use, but the more pieces we use, the harder it is to control them all. One more important restriction is that we are not allowed to attack the opponent's pusher. Otherwise, everyone would just target the pusher and it would be destroyed before the other team had a chance to do anything. However, only one pusher is immune to attack, so while we are allowed to use more than one, it is disadvantageous to most teams only used one pusher. So is this good for the pusher? Shun asked, his forehead glistening with sweat. While we were all fooling around with the clay, only Shun had the capabilities to freely shape it to his will. It was impossible for the rest of us. The overall shape was a short cone with a shallow, rounded bottom like a boat's to help it glide on the field. In order to control the ball, there were 2 arms coming out of it at a 120-degree angle from the front. It looked like a person with his arms outstretched. That's pretty good. It's simple, but still looks cool, Maria commented. So now all we need are attackers. Since Shun is focusing on working the pusher, we should split up the rest of the work among the rest of us, Satoru said, taking the opportunity to hand out tasks to us. How is Team 1 doing? Mr. Endo poked his head in, smiling at us. His round face, framed by his hair and beard, somehow earned him the weird nickname, Sun Prince. We've just finished the design for the pusher, Satoru said, proudly showing off the model. Oh, you've done a pretty good job in such a short time. Yup, we're thinking of hardening it now. Who's controlling the pusher? Shun. Just as I expected, Mr. Endo nodded. Well, the rest of you work hard on the attackers. Yes, sir, we replied energetically. Later, after a heated discussion, we decided on 5 attackers. Shun would control the pusher and an attacker simultaneously, while the rest of us each had an attacker. At this time, no one remembered that there used to be one more member in Team 1. Our first round was against Team 5. That was a stroke of luck. Rumor had it that Team 3 had built the best pieces and was the favorite to win the competition, and that Team 2 had been spotted behaving suspiciously. A round of rock, paper, scissors determined us to be the first to attack. Since this was our first match, we were nervous to see what Team 5's defenders would look like. They had 6 wall-like defenders moving from side to side, blocking the entire width of our path. We huddled together in a circle, each of us silently reciting our mantras. As we expected, they're using the most basic strategy, Maria whispered, looking delighted. This won't even take half a minute. Satoru chuckled like he'd already won. Let's break through the center, Shun said quietly. With that kind of defense, we can break through wherever we want, but it looks like the middle of the field is the flattest. When our pusher and attackers came onto the field, all the members of Team 5 looked rattled. The pusher glided slowly into position with its arms up behind the ball. The attackers were deployed in a neat formation. 3 were positioned in a triangle in front of the ball, and the other 2 were guarding either side of it. The vanguard attackers were shaped like triangular pyramids, with the tip pointed forward. They looked like paper airplanes because the long edge of the pyramid was touching the ground and the flat side was facing up. The 2 guards were bottom-heavy, shaped like squashed cylinders, with numerous protrusions on the surface. Actually, the protrusions had no real purpose, but had the effect of making the guard look sturdier. Play fair, work together as a team, and do your best. Got it? The Sun Prince announced and blew the whistle to start the match. The vanguard advanced slowly. The pusher was still building up power, so the heavy ball stayed where it was. While it was stationary, the ball was vulnerable, but trying to rush it too much risked damaging the pusher. Then again, since Shun was controlling it, such a blunder was unimaginable. The defenders couldn't gather up the courage to advance and continued wavering uselessly from side to side. The ball finally started rolling slowly forward. It gradually gathered speed and hurtled down the field with the 3 attackers leading the charge. Team 5 finally realized our plans and hurried to gather their defenders in the middle. But it was too late. We were going to crush them in a single blow. The attackers plowed through the defenders' heavy walls like they were made of paper. A second later, the marble ball rumbled past. All that happened in the blink of an eye. The second web broke through their defense. Team 5 was defeated. The marble ball made straight for the goal and fell into the hole with a resounding thud. The time was 26 seconds, faster than Satoru had predicted. I wish they had tried harder. That wasn't even a competition, Satoru said. Seriously, it was like they didn't have a defense at all. Even the usually quiet Mamoru agreed. But if we became complacent, things might turn out bad. The other side still gets to attack. I tried to get them to focus. We haven't won yet. We've basically already won, though, right? No matter how I think of it, there's no way they can score a goal in under 26 seconds, Satoru said, still smirking. But we never know what might happen. Don't get caught off guard, Shun said as we moved our defenders onto the field. When we saw the pieces Team 5 was using, we were all dumbstruck. Since their defenders were so plain, we had been expecting the same of their attackers. Unfortunately, we had grossly underestimated them. They had used a cleverly deceptive all-or-nothing strategy. What is that, huh? Maria said in a low voice. All 6 of them looked the same. The pieces were rectangular, with a protruding arm like a bell hammer. They made all of them pushers, Satoru whispered. The Sun Prince took one of the pushers and drew a red circle on it, indicating that it was the one we were not allowed to attack. But we're allowed to attack all the others, right? So that one still doesn't have any defenders to protect it, I said. It's okay if 1 or 2 pushers are damaged. If all 6 pieces push, any of our defenders would be crushed by the speed of the ball, Satoru answered. So that's how it was. The whistle sounded, and the ball started rolling, quickly gathering speed. 4 of our defenders are shaped like doorstops, the idea being that we could wedge them under the ball to slow its movement and throw it off track. But 2 of them were sent flying by the speed of the ball before they could do anything. The 2 that were left went after the pushers on the edge. 1 managed to flip a pusher over, but with 5 remaining, the ball showed no signs of slowing down. This is bad. At this rate, Satoru shouted. The ball was moving a lot faster than ours had been, so if it scored a goal, we would lose. Our trump card was our 5th defender. Sitting in the middle of the field, it took aim down the path, the ball waist-traveling. Shun, I'm leaving it to you, Satoru shouted. The defender was shaped like a thick disc, with a knob at the bottom where it touched the ground. When the ball rolled onto the defender, it would spin 180 degrees, sending the ball back where it had come from. It was Shun's brilliant idea. The ball came barreling down the path at an incredible speed, but I had no doubt that Shun would be able to time it just right. However, something unexpected happened. The ball hit an uneven patch on the path and jumped a little into the air. Shun instantly adjusted the defender so the ball wouldn't jump over it. The ball landed on the defender with an unpleasant cracking sound. Although Shun spun the defender, the ball bounced back up again and continued on, its path unchanged. It's too late now, Satoru said dejectedly. At this speed, it wouldn't take 26, but more like 16 seconds to reach the goal. Just as I looked away, Maria shouted, "Ah! What's that?" I looked up and saw an unprecedented scenario unfolding before me. The ball had gathered so much speed that Team 5 had completely lost control of it. One of the pushers was pulled over in front of the ball and crushed. The forces directing the ball became unbalanced, and the ball swerved to one side. There was no way to stop the ball anymore. It missed the goal by a large margin and flew off the field. Since Team 5 can no longer continue, Team 1 is the winner. The Sun Prince's voice sounded like a voice from heaven. Yes! We passed the first round. Team 5 really sabotaged themselves, probably because their tactics were too extreme. As we gathered together to celebrate our victory, I realized Shun was standing outside the circle. What happened? I asked. Shun turned toward me, holding the defender and looking dejected. This is bad. It cracked, huh? Everyone gathered around Shun. Since the clay was baked at high temperatures, it should have the strength to withstand the weight of the marble ball on top of it. All the same, we never expected the ball to jump and fall onto the disc. Well, we don't know if we still have 1 or 2 matches left, but does this mean we won't be able to use it? Maria asked. Yeah, it'll probably break the next time a ball rolls onto it. It'll be impossible to spin it and throw the ball off course. So we have no choice but to go out with only 4 defenders. We tried to come up with countermeasures, but couldn't think of anything good, so we decided to take a break and go find out who our next opponents were. Since there are 5 teams, the numbers are uneven for a tournament. How they do it at Sage Academy is 2 pairs of teams are picked by lottery to compete, and the 2 winning teams draw straws. The winner proceeds directly to the final round, and the loser fights the team that was seeded in the first round. The winner in that round becomes the other finalist. Depending on your luck, you could win the tournament with just 2 bouts or have to do all 3. In any case, we went to watch the bout between Team 3 and 4. As rumored, Team 3 was strong, and we got to see both their offense and defense. Their pusher was a complex curved shape like a horseshoe that could control the ball perfectly. Their attackers were similar to ours, but seemed more refined. What surprised us was how they used their 2 defenders, which were shaped like kokeshi. Between the 2 stretched a rope made of wet clay. When the ball rolled over the rope, it naturally wrapped itself around the ball and stopped it from moving forward. Although Team 4 eventually made it to the goal, they lost a large amount of time. They're pretty smart to think of that, Satoru said grudgingly. We were wrong to assume we had to use hardened clay. It seemed like they were pretty confident that they could cause their opponents to lose enough time to ensure their own victory. Team 3 is definitely going to win, Maria said with a look of admiration. Team 3 beat Team 4 by a huge margin of 22 seconds to 7 minutes and 59 seconds. We drew straws against Team 3 and fortunately got to advance directly to the finals. Looks like we got lucky. Since we have time, let's think of a good strategy. Can you fix the disc? My cantus isn't powerful enough to bake more clay onto it to restore it perfectly. The most I can do is patch it up temporarily. While Shun, Satoru and I tried to work out a solution, Maria and Mamoru went to watch the semifinal bout between teams 3 and 2. In any case, let's try to fill in the cracks on the disc first. Can we get some clay to fix this? Satoru went to relay my question to the Sun Prince. In the end, we were told that if we could exchange some of our pieces for the same amount of clay the pieces weighed. But since baked clay was lighter than wet clay, the amount we would get in return was a lot less. There's nothing we can do about it. There was 1 defender that was damaged earlier, so let's trade that in. We filled in the cracks and Shun hardened the clay with his cantus. How should we use the leftover clay? I kneaded it into a ball and then flattened it until it was a paper thin. Wait a minute. This might... Saki, stop playing with it, Satoru said. Hey, we might be able to beat Team 3 with this. What are you talking about? Shun looked over from the repaired disc. Did you just think of something? I nodded tentatively and told them about my idea. Amazing, you're a genius. My ears reddened at Shun's compliment. Yeah, well, it's a pretty cheap trick, but they definitely won't be expecting it, Satoru said. As usual, he was trying to insult me, but he couldn't deny that the idea was good. We should do it, Satoru. There's no other way. Yeah, I guess. We don't have time to try anything else. We all set to work, flattening a new piece of clay and attaching it to the one I made earlier. Since we were all working on the same thing, we couldn't use our cantus, so we had no choice but to do everything by hand. We finished just as Maria and Mamoru burst into their room. The semifinals just ended, and something really bad happened. Don't tell me we're up against Team 3, but we have a plan against them, Satoru said, as if he was the one who had come up with the idea. No, Maria said. Team 3 lost. Team 2 is our opponent in the finals.